Listen carefully, because what you are about to hear is not random, and it is not delayed. I, Archangel Michael, am speaking into this exact moment because heaven has interrupted something that was forming against you. There are no coincidences in the spirit realm. The timing of this message is deliberate. Within the last few hours, a confrontation has taken place beyond what your natural eyes can see. The person who attempted to curse you, who whispered your name with ill intent, who believed their words and rituals would go unanswered, is now being held in divine restraint. Your resistance has collapsed. Their confidence has dissolved. And right now, as you hear these words, they are confessing everything. You felt something was wrong, didn't you? A heaviness that could not be explained. A strange tension in your atmosphere. Sudden fatigue. Unexpected misunderstandings. Small obstacles stacking up in unusual ways. You questioned yourself. You wondered if you were overthinking. But your spirit knew. There was interference. There was intention behind the pressure. And while you were trying to remain calm, while you were praying quietly and pushing forward, an unseen attack was being formed. Words were spoken. Intentions were crafted. Energy was directed. But what they did not calculate was heaven's response. Before their curse could fully manifest, I was dispatched. Understand this clearly. Nothing touches the chosen without passing through divine permission. And what was spoken against you triggered a higher law. The moment their intention crossed from jealousy into spiritual aggression, authority was activated. I stepped into their atmosphere without warning. Their boldness turned to trembling. Their secrecy turned to exposure. They are not standing confidently as they thought they would. They are being confronted by truth. And the very words they tried to use against you are now being drawn out of them in confession. This is why you were led here now. The urgency in the title is not dramatic language. It is spiritual timing. When heaven exposes something, it must be acknowledged quickly. Delay allows fear to grow, but truth destroys fear instantly. You are not under a curse. You are under attack. And there is a difference. A curse implies authority over you, and a data by than a dim. What was sent toward you did not land the way they intended. It was intercepted midair, examined, and traced back to its source. Picture this moment as a spiritual courtroom. The accuser believed they would remain hidden in the shadows. They assumed their actions would stay concealed behind smiles and casual conversations. But heaven does not operate in secrecy when it comes to injustice against the chosen. The light has been turned on. The evidence is undeniable. And now, under divine authority, they are speaking, not because they want to, not because they suddenly grew a conscience, but because truth cannot survive in silence when confronted by higher power. You may be wondering why this is happening now. Why not weeks ago? Why not the moment they first conceived the plan? Because exposure comes at the appointed time. Sometimes heaven allows intention to develop just enough to reveal the heart behind it. The issue was never just about a few negative words. It was about motive. It was about the bitterness that grew unchecked. It was about resentment toward your peace, your progress, your calling. They watched you move forward. They saw doors opening for you. They sensed favor around you. And instead of seeking their own breakthrough, they tried to tamper with yours. But here is what they did not understand. You are guarded. There are assignments over your life that cannot be canceled by envy. There are promises spoken over you that cannot be erased by whispers. And when their actions crossed into spiritual interference, heaven responded with enforcement. I did not come to negotiate. I came to restrain. And now, the one who thought they had control is realizing they never did. The pressure you have been feeling begins to lift from this moment forward. The confusion begins to clear. The subtle tension that made you question your own instincts will start to dissolve. Because once truth surfaces, the power of hidden attacks weakens immediately. Darkness depends on secrecy. Exposure destroys it. This message matters because if you misinterpret what was happening, you might blame yourself. You might shrink back. You might limit your steps out of caution. But you were not the problem. You were the target. And being targeted is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence of value. No one attacks what carries no threat. No one tries to curse what has no future. Within these next moments, deeper truths will unfold. The confession is only the beginning. What is being revealed right now connects to something larger than you imagined. And as this revelation continues, you will understand why the opposition intensified recently. There is more happening behind this than you currently see. And what comes next will confirm that this interception was not only protection, it was preparation. There are attacks that announce themselves loudly, and then there are attacks that move like a whisper through a closed door. What was sent against you did not come with obvious warning signs. It did not arrive with visible confrontation. It was subtle, calculated, hidden behind familiarity. The person who tried to curse you did not begin with hatred on the surface. It began with comparison. It began with watching. It began with noticing that your life was moving in a direction they could not control. Spiritual attacks rarely begin as dramatic rituals. They begin as unchecked thoughts, a seed of jealousy, a silent resentment, a private frustration that grows when someone sees favor resting on another person. They observe your progress. They saw how obstacles that stopped others did not stop you. They noticed how even after setbacks, you rose again. What they could not understand was the covering over you. Instead of asking why grace followed you, they allowed bitterness to answer the question for them. And bitterness, when entertained long enough, becomes intention. The motive behind what they attempted was not random anger. It was insecurity. They believed that if they could weaken your momentum, their own would somehow increase. They assumed that if confusion surrounded you, clarity would come to them. But spiritual laws do not function on comparison. They function on alignment. What they tried to manipulate was never assigned to them. And because it was not theirs to touch, it triggered a response beyond their expectation. You may remember moments recently when things felt slightly off. Conversations misfired. Plans stalled. Small misunderstandings multiplied. It was not dramatic enough to cause alarm, but it was consistent enough to feel intentional. That was not coincidence. That was pressure being applied behind the scenes. Words were spoken about you when you were not present. Doubt was planted in environments connected to you. Subtle negativity was released with the hope that it would attach to your progress. But here is the truth. They did not calculate. A curse requires agreement to function. Spiritual attacks look for access points. Fear, self-doubt, bitterness. If any of those doors are open, negative intention attempts to anchor itself. But even in moments when you felt uncertain, you did not surrender your identity. Even when you questioned situations, you did not curse yourself. Even when tired, you did not align with despair. And because you did not partner with the attack, it could not root itself in your life. This is the spiritual law that allowed intervention. What is sent without divine permission cannot prosper against someone walking under assignment. The attempt may be made, but the result is blocked. When their words crossed the boundary of envy into spiritual aggression, heaven recorded it. When their intention solidified into action, authority was activated. That is when I stepped in, not as a reaction of panic, but as enforcement of order. Understand this clearly. Not everyone who smiles celebrates you. Not everyone who stands near you supports you. Sometimes the greatest interference comes from proximity. The one who tried to curse you believed closeness gave them leverage. They believed access gave them advantage. But what they failed to recognize is that access to your presence does not equal access to your protection. Your covering does not depend on human loyalty. It depends on divine alignment. And this is why their plan collapsed before it could take root. Right now, as their confession unfolds in the unseen realm, clarity is being restored around you. You will begin to notice shifts. Certain people may distance themselves unexpectedly. Certain conversation may change its tone. Certain hidden tensions may suddenly surface. Do not panic when this happens. Exposure often creates temporary discomfort before it produces lasting peace. If this message is confirming what you have been sensing, do not remain silent. Engage with this moment. Like this message as a declaration that you receive divine protection. Subscribe if you are ready to stay aligned with truth and not fear. Share this with someone who has felt unexplained pressure recently. And in the comments, write, "I received divine protection," as a sign that you refuse to partner with hidden attacks. Your engagement is not about algorithms. It is about agreement. Agreement with light over darkness. Agreement with authority over intimidation. The hidden attack you never saw coming is no longer hidden. The motive has been exposed. The intention has been restrained. And what was meant to weaken you has now revealed something powerful. You are spiritually significant enough to threaten insecurity. That is not a burden. That is evidence of purpose. But this is only the surface of what is being uncovered. The confession now unfolding is deeper than you imagine. It contains details you did not expect. And as truth continues to rise, you will understand that this battle was not merely about jealousy. It was about destiny interference. What is being revealed next will shift how you interpret the past few months entirely. Now the silence is breaking. The one who tried to curse you is no longer standing in secret confidence. They are being confronted by the very truth they tried to bury. I, Archangel Michael, stand as witness and enforcer as their words are drawn out one by one. What they spoke in hidden rooms is now echoing in the courts of heaven. What they whispered with assumption is now being repeated with trembling. This is not chaos. This is exposure. The moment an attack fails, pressure shifts back to its source. And that is exactly what is happening now. Their confession is not poetic. It is not noble. It is heavy with regret and fear. They are admitting jealousy. They are admitting comparison. They are admitting that they felt threatened by your growth. They saw favor resting on your life, and instead of seeking alignment, they sought sabotage. They convinced themselves that you did not deserve what was unfolding for you. They justified their actions by magnifying your strengths into offenses. And slowly, what began as internal insecurity turned into external aggression. They are confessing that they spoke against your name intentionally, that they released doubt into spaces connected to you, that they tried to spiritually weaken your momentum through negativity disguised as concern. And some of what they attempted was calculated. It was not emotional impulse. It was planned interference. But here is the turning point. Every word they formed is now being reversed in authority. When truth is forced into the light, it loses its power to operate in darkness. Confession is not only admission, it is collapse. The moment they are required to face what they did, the structure of the curse disintegrates completely. There is no foundation left for it to stand on. And as they confess, restoration begins moving toward you. You may feel a shift even as you listen. A lifting, a clarity returning, a strange calm replacing tension. That is not imagination. That is the weight of hidden opposition dissolving. Because once exposure happens in the spirit, manifestation follows in the natural. What was heavy becomes lighter. What was confusing becomes clear. What was blocked begins to move. Heaven responds fiercely when injustice targets the chosen. Not because you are perfect, not because you have never made mistakes, but because your life carries assignment, and assignments are guarded. The attack against you was never just personal. It was strategic. It aimed at delay, a distraction, at draining your confidence just enough to make you question your next step. But they underestimated something crucial. You did not quit. Even under pressure, you kept moving. Even when confused, you kept believing. Even when tired, you did not surrender your identity. That persistence activated protection at a higher level. And now the evidence is undeniable. The one who tried to curse you is not celebrating. They are confessing. And this exposure is proof of something powerful. You are protected in ways you cannot always see. Hold on to this moment, because what is about to be revealed next will connect even deeper patterns you have experienced recently. You will be glad you are hearing this now, because the next revelation shifts everything you thought you understood about this battle. Before we go further, seal this moment with faith. Type "Truth Prevails" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 914 is now activated over your life. Let that number mark the turning point where hidden attacks lose authority and divine clarity takes over. As this truth unfolds, understand something sacred. Messages like this are not just content. They are light-piercing darkness for countless souls. When you respond, when you engage, when you stand in agreement, you are helping truth travel farther than you can see. Scripture declares, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." That is not ancient history. That is God speaking into this very moment. And I feel led to say this clearly. I am inviting you to be part of carrying that light. If this word is strengthening you, sow into it as a prophetic act. Through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, whose link is in the description and whose QR code may be flashing on your screen. You are not funding a platform. You are fueling a mission. You are helping deliver freedom to someone who is still under pressure tonight. When you give, you become a river that keeps revelation flowing. And as you release your seed, may heaven release multiplied clarity, protection, and acceleration back into your life. Do not hesitate when obedience knocks. Step into it boldly. Now understand this clearly. The confession is only the beginning. Exposure opens the door, but revelation walks through it. There are deeper layers behind why this attack formed when it did. There are reasons the pressure intensified recently. And what is about to be uncovered next will show you that this was not random jealousy. It was reaction to your rising season. Prepare yourself, because the deeper truth behind why they targeted you specifically is about to come into focus. Now you must understand something that will change how you interpret everything that has happened. This was never random. You were not chosen by accident. You were targeted because of recognition. Not recognition in the natural sense of fame or applause, but recognition in a spiritual realm. There is something marked on your life. Something that announces purpose before you even speak. And those who are sensitive to shifts, even in darkness, can sense when someone carries rising authority. The person who tried to curse you did not wake up one day suddenly deciding to attack. It was gradual. They observed you. They watched how doors opened for you without manipulation. They noticed how favor followed you into rooms where others struggled to be seen. They paid attention to the resilience you carried after disappointments. And instead of being inspired, they became unsettled, because your growth exposed their stagnation. Every time you advanced, it silently confronted areas where they had remained stuck. Every time you healed, it reminded them of wounds they refused to address. Every time you celebrated quietly, it magnified their internal unrest. You became a mirror they did not want to look into. And when someone refuses self-reflection, they often look for someone else to blame. You were never their enemy. You were their reminder. There is an anointing that rests on individuals who are aligned with divine timing. It is not loud. It is not always visible. But it carries weight. You carry that weight. It is why conversations shift when you enter a space. It is why certain people feel exposed without you saying a word. It is why your silence has often been misunderstood as distance or superiority. In truth, it is depth. They sensed something on you they could not explain. They felt that you were stepping into a new level. Perhaps you did not even announce it. Perhaps you were greatly preparing, praying, planning, growing. But in the spirit, movement was visible. And movement attracts reaction. The timing of their attack aligns perfectly with your transition into a new season. That is not coincidence. When someone is about to cross into greater clarity, greater influence, or greater stability, opposition often attempts to create confusion right before breakthrough. It is a last attempt to destabilize focus, a final effort to distract you from stepping fully into what is unfolding. But here is what they misjudged. Your silence was not weakness. You have endured misunderstandings without retaliation. You have tolerated subtle disrespect without public confrontation. You have chosen peace when conflict would have been easier. And in their eyes, restraint looked like vulnerability. They assumed that because you did not respond aggressively, you could be spiritually overpowered. They mistook gentleness for lack of authority. That miscalculation became their downfall. Because strength does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it stands calmly, anchored in confidence, while storms rage around it. And your calmness frustrated them. Your steady progress irritated them. Your refusal to engage in petty exchanges unsettled them. They wanted reaction. They wanted emotional instability. They wanted evidence that their interference was working. Instead, you kept moving. There is also something deeper. Your calling is not isolated to personal success. It touches others. Whether you realize it or not, people observe you and find quiet encouragement. Your discipline inspires without speeches. Your endurance strengthens others silently. And when someone carries influence that extends beyond themselves, opposition becomes more determined. Because stopping you would not only limit your growth, it would limit the ripple effect connected to you. They targeted you because you are transitional. You are a bridge into something new, not only for yourself, but for others connected to you. Your progress shifts atmospheres. Your elevation changes conversations. Your healing disrupts generational patterns. And when generational cycles are threatened, resistance intensifies. But understand this clearly. Targeting does not equal defeat. In fact, it often confirms proximity to promise. If you look back carefully, you will see a pattern. The moments of greatest pressure often came right before expansion. The seasons of confusion were followed by clarity. The misunderstandings preceded alignment. What you are experiencing now is part of that same rhythm. The attack formed because you are closer than ever to stepping into a level that cannot be easily challenged. And here is the final truth. They attacked what they could see, but they never understood what stands behind you. They saw your personality. They saw your habits. They saw your environment. But they did not see the covering. They did not see the authority assigned to guard your path. They did not see that any attempt to spiritually interfere would trigger immediate response from realms they do not control. You were targeted because you are marked for advancement. You were challenged because you are positioned for increase. You were opposed because you are rising. And now that the confession has begun, and the motive is exposed, the next revelation will reveal something even more powerful: the law that governs reversal. What was sent toward you is not only neutralized, it is being redirected. And what happens next will show you that the very attempt to harm you is about to become evidence of your protection. Now it is time to understand something that will forever change how you perceive attacks, opposition, and challenges in your life. What was directed against you was not random, and it was never meant to succeed. There is a law in heaven that governs every word spoken, every intention formed, every action taken against those under divine assignment. This is the law of divine reversal. What your enemy thought would bring harm to you is already returning to its origin. What was intended to delay your destiny is now fueling your breakthrough. What was whispered in darkness is now illuminated by light. This is a law so precise that no human force, no negative energy, no hidden plan can override it once it falls under the authority of heaven. The moment their curse was formed, it crossed a line in the spiritual realm. Words, rituals, or intentions sent without God's permission cannot operate beyond a certain boundary. That is why, even when fear, doubt, or confusion threatened you, the attack could not penetrate your alignment. It can attempt to affect your natural circumstances, but it cannot alter your divine position. And every time they tried, the universe recorded it, the heavens responded, and the law of reversal prepared to execute its work. Reversal is not just an abstract concept. It is a force of divine justice in motion. It is a principle that ensures that any plan formed to bring destruction will, at the very least, rebound with neutralizing power, and at the very best, return multiplied against the source. That is why the confession you are witnessing now is essential. Confession does not simply reveal truth, it activates this law. Once the enemy admits the weight of their intent, their energy, previously directed outward to harm, begins to redirect. The spiritual currents shift, flowing in the opposite direction. What they tried to use to create fear now becomes evidence of your authority. What they attempted to hide now becomes proof of your protection. In the natural realm, this may not yet be visible. You may still feel remnants of tension or uncertainty. You may still wonder how past encounters will resolve. But understand this: the spiritual law is already in motion. Invisible forces you cannot yet see are balancing the scales. Every attempt to weaken you is being converted into an instrument of elevation. Every word spoken in secrecy is now being rewritten in your favor. And every act intended to slow you is transforming into acceleration toward your destiny. Consider the biblical examples. Joseph, who was betrayed and sold by his own brothers, saw the very act of betrayal become the path to his destiny. David, pursued by those who sought to take his life, discovered that every enemy movement eventually became testimony of God's protection. Esther, placed in a palace filled with plots against her people, became the instrument through which adversaries' intentions were overturned for deliverance. These are not mere stories. They are patterns of divine law, illustrating that heaven is designed to respond to both intention and injustice. The law of divine reversal also functions in the unseen realm through spiritual authority. I, Archangel Michael, am here to enforce it. When the enemy's words crossed into action against you, I stepped in. What they believed they could release unnoticed is now being held accountable. Every negative declaration, every attempted curse, every thought of envy and destruction is being weighed against their intention and measured against your divine covering. And as they confess, this law executes itself with precision. Reversal is inevitable. It cannot be delayed. It cannot be ignored. It is an unbreakable decree for those under divine assignment. Now, the consequences of this law are not only spiritual, they ripple into the natural. Doors that seemed stuck are opening. Confusion is resolving. Relationships that were subtly strained begin to clarify. Peace begins to replace tension. People who tried to align against you are experiencing the natural reflection of their intent. Situations that once seemed negative now contribute to your growth. Opportunities that appeared blocked are being rerouted to meet your favor. This is the principle of divine justice at work, that what was meant for evil will, at the appointed time, produce evidence of protection, blessing, and confirmation of purpose. There is also a timing principle in reversal. You may have noticed that the confession, the exposure, and the moment of revelation are happening in perfect alignment with your current season. This is not an accident. The law operates on both authority and timing. Every attempt to harm you is caught, examined, and then redirected according to divine precision. The law waits for the appointed moment when exposure will maximize its impact. That is why what you are witnessing now is the climax of what hath been forming in secret. The enemy believed they were succeeding, but in reality, they were planting seeds for their own exposure and your demonstration of protection. And now, as this understanding settles in, you can walk in confidence. You can step forward without hesitation. You can refuse to internalize fear or doubt. The law of divine reversal ensures that every negative action against you is not only neutralized but transformed into a vehicle for your vindication. What others intended for harm is becoming your testimony. What was meant to break your spirit is strengthening your resolve. And what they thought would delay you is now aligning you with acceleration into the season God has prepared. This is not theory. This is not hope alone. This is law. Heaven guarantees it. Nothing can override it. And as you stand under its influence, you are not just safe. You are elevated. You are not just protected. You are positioned. You are not just surviving. You are stepping into divine favor. Understand this fully. The attacks against you were never stronger than the authority guarding you. The confessions you are witnessing are a necessary part of activating reversal. And the next step will show you how the very spiritual authority of Archangel Michael ensures that the enemy cannot recover. You are about to witness a spiritual enforcement that finalizes the law in action. Now, it is crucial to understand the full weight of what is happening on your behalf. The events you are witnessing are not random or left to chance. I, Archangel Michael, am the commander of heaven's armies, and I am here to ensure that divine authority is enforced in every situation where the chosen are threatened. The enemy may think they operate freely, that their words and intentions go unseen, but nothing slips past the order and structure of heaven. My authority is absolute, and the moment an attack is directed against one under divine assignment, my presence intervenes without hesitation. When I enter a situation, it is not passive. I do not negotiate with evil or allow hesitation in enforcement. My mission is clear: to restrain the one attempting harm, to expose deception, and to protect the chosen from spiritual, emotional, or physical harm. In the moment the curse against you was formed, I was immediately dispatched to contain it. Every word spoken, every thought intended to manipulate or destroy, was intercepted. The one who tried to curse you now stands under the weight of my authority, unable to escape the truth of their own actions. They are confessing because they are confronted not only by the light of exposure but by the power of divine enforcement. It is important for you to understand that authority in the spiritual realm functions differently than in the natural. I do not merely observe, I act. My sword, which represents the word and judgment of God, is not symbolic in this moment. It is active. It divides truth from deception, exposing hidden motives and unraveling attempts to deceive. Every strategy that the enemy attempted against you is now being dismantled under the precision of divine law. Nothing they constructed can endure the presence of a warrior sent from God. This is not about intimidation or fear. This is about order, justice, and protection of the divinely appointed. The enemy's confidence collapses instantly when confronted with authority. They believed secrecy would shield them. They assumed that distance would protect their intentions. They convinced themselves that they could manipulate outcomes without consequence. But these assumptions were false. Every spiritual act against you now triggers enforcement. Every intention to harm encounters restraint. And every attempt to manipulate or deceive is immediately exposed. The confession you are witnessing is a natural consequence of this authority. The one who tried to curse you cannot withstand it. Their energy is restrained, their plans are exposed, and their ability to continue their attack is neutralized. Understand this: when I act on your behalf, it is not just a passive shield. It is active engagement. I am enforcing justice, dismantling deception, and ensuring that every word, every attempt, and every manipulation that crosses against you is either reversed or redirected. The very power they sought to use to harm you now functions as evidence of their failure and proof of your protection. Nothing that opposes you in the spiritual realm can succeed without triggering this chain of enforcement. Even in the natural realm, the effects are evident. You may notice subtle shifts. People who were aligned with negativity begin to distance themselves. Situations, once blocked, begin to move, and clarity replaces confusion. These are signs that the spiritual enforcement of divine authority is working in your favor. The enemy cannot operate freely. They are being restrained in ways they cannot understand. And the results of this intervention are not only protective but restorative. Every attempt to interfere with your path is now being redirected toward your confirmation, favor, and elevation. The sword of Michael is not merely a weapon. It is a declaration of divine justice. It cuts through fear, doubt, and deception. It defends the righteous. It exposes the hidden. And it ensures that truth prevails. When you feel the weight of spiritual pressure in your life, understand that the sword is active, even if you cannot see it. My presence in your life ensures that those who attempt harm are restrained, those who conspire are exposed, and those who oppose your purpose are powerless against the authority assigned to guard you. Authority also brings confidence. You can walk through your life without fear because the one who defends you does not flee. The one who upholds justice never hesitates. The one who enforces divine law does so without compromise. Your protection is not conditional on human action. It is guaranteed by spiritual authority. You are under cover that cannot be broken by jealousy, fear, or hidden attacks. The one who tried to curse you is learning that their actions have consequences, that exposure is inevitable, and that no hidden plot can survive the intervention of heaven. This is why understanding spiritual authority is critical. You may have experienced attacks, confusion, or opposition and wondered why God allows them. Some things are allowed to surface so that authority can be demonstrated. When the enemy is exposed, It reveals the truth of the covering, the power of protection, and the guarantee of reversal. Your role is to remain steadfast, remain in faith, and recognize that every spiritual battle being fought on your behalf is guided by wisdom, precision, and power beyond human comprehension. Now, as you listen to this message, know this. The enforcement continues. The confession of the enemy is unfolding. Your plans are collapsing. Their influence is neutralized. And the authority I exercise on your behalf ensures that the law of divine reversal fully operates. Every attack is redirected, every word is nullified, and every attempt at harm becomes a testimony of protection. You are safe. You are covered. You are elevated. And as this authority secures your path, the next part will reveal exactly how the curse that was sent against you is breaking, how its chains are dissolving, and how restoration begins immediately in your life. You are about to witness the finalization of divine intervention, and the evidence of protection will be undeniable. Now comes a moment of profound revelation. The curse that was intended to bind you, to obstruct your path, to diminish your confidence, is no longer operative. What they tried to send against you has been intercepted, restrained, and is now being dismantled in real time. You may have felt moments of heaviness, confusion, or subtle pressure in your life, and those feelings were signals, not confirmations, of success. They were warnings that the attack existed, yes, but they were never an indicator that it could succeed. The truth is, what was directed at you has met the authority of heaven, and that authority is absolute. The breaking of a curse is a process that occurs both in the unseen and natural realms simultaneously. Spiritually, the chains that were meant to hold your energy, your influence, and your blessings are being unraveled. Every word spoken against you in secrecy, every ritual attempted in darkness, every intention to slow you down is being dismantled at its root. The source of the attack is exposed, and the power it carried is now rendered null. You are witnessing the culmination of divine intervention. This is not theoretical. This is active, precise, and irreversible. When a curse breaks, it does more than neutralize negative energy. It releases what was stolen or delayed. Every seed of blessing, favor, and breakthrough that the enemy attempted to hinder is now being restored. Opportunities that were blocked begin to flow again. Favor that was stalled begins to move unhindered. Even relationships, finances, and personal breakthroughs that were subtly affected will begin to align once more. The breaking of the curse is not simply defensive, it is restorative. Restoration begins instantly at the moment of exposure, and it is proportional to the weight of what was attempted against you. Understand this carefully. Curses, by their nature, depend on three things to succeed: agreement, access, and ignorance. If you never agreed with the negativity, if the attack could not penetrate your spiritual covering, and if the intention was hidden from you until now, it cannot operate. You have met every condition necessary for divine reversal. Not only did the curse fail, but it is actively working in your favor through the spiritual law of redirection. What was intended for harm now becomes proof of your protection, and what was meant to delay you now serves as evidence that your life is under meticulous divine guidance. The process of breaking a curse also affects the one who attempted it. Confession is the first visible sign of disruption in their spiritual activity. Every word they utter, every motive they disclose, further dissolves the chains they sought to place on you. As they are forced to confront the truth of their own actions, their confidence diminishes. Your influence is restricted, and every attempt they make to continue their work is rendered powerless. The spiritual battlefield is being cleared. The enemy's foothold is eliminated. Their ability to affect your natural or spiritual environment is permanently disrupted. This is why restoration is immediate. As the chains dissolve, you will feel subtle shifts, a lifting of heaviness, a sudden clarity in decision-making, and the alignment of situations that may have felt stagnant. Obstacles that once seemed insurmountable will begin to crumble, and your path will become illuminated in ways that were previously hidden. Doors that were closed or partially obstructed begin to open fully. People who were hesitant or misaligned now come into proper agreement with your purpose. Even circumstances that appeared negative will transform to serve your advancement. But the breaking of a curse does more than restore. It confirms your identity. It proves that you are protected, significant, and under assignment. It is evidence that your life cannot be manipulated by hidden agendas or malicious intent. The very attempt to curse you has confirmed your value in the spiritual realm. The pressure, the secrecy, the negative intention, all of it was temporary. And as it dissolves, you are reminded that your life is divinely orchestrated. No attack, no matter how cunning or concealed, can overcome what has been decreed for you by God. Now, as this moment unfolds, understand that the breaking of the curse is also a signal to move with renewed authority. You are not simply restored to a previous state, you are elevated beyond it. The energy that would have been used to hold you back is now released to propel you forward. Favor accelerates, opportunities expand, and clarity sharpens. What was once an obstacle now becomes a stepping stone, and every blessing that was stalled is now activated in alignment with the law of divine timing. Hold this thought: the enemy's failure is not just about you. It is also a warning to others who may attempt to operate in opposition to God's plans. Spiritual enforcement is real, precise, and unyielding. Your life now stands as testimony to divine intervention and authority. The one who tried to curse you is powerless, and the chain of their influence is broken forever. They are forced to watch their own words and intentions dissolve into nothing. And the confession they make now ensures that the law of reversal continues to operate fully, guaranteeing that every attempt to harm you transforms into evidence of protection. Prepare for restoration in every area of your life. What was delayed will now accelerate. What was diminished will now increase. What was hidden will now be revealed. And as you step into this next phase, the proof of divine authority will be visible both spiritually and naturally. You are protected. You are restored. You are elevated. And the evidence of divine intervention is unmistakable. Type "I am chosen" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 601 is now activated. Let this number serve as a marker of divine restoration, a confirmation that the curse hath been broken and your life is now operating fully under God's protection. The next part will reveal the greater plan behind the attack, the reason this opposition existed, what it was meant to conceal, and how it ultimately serves your higher purpose. Should I write part 8? Now it is time to understand the bigger picture. What was directed against you was never just about one person's jealousy or bitterness. This was never merely about envy or petty competition. Behind every attack lies a spiritual agenda, a strategy formed to obscure destiny, delay purpose, or create confusion at a pivotal moment. The person who attempted to curse you was not acting alone. They were part of a larger pattern of opposition that seeks to interfere with your assignment. But here is the truth. What was meant to stop you has only highlighted your significance. Opposition is often evidence that your season is arriving, that your influence is expanding, and that your calling is growing in ways that cannot be ignored. The enemy attempted to divert you from your path, but they underestimated the protection surrounding you. Divine covering does not simply neutralize attacks, it exposes the motives behind them. You were targeted because there is something in you that others cannot contain. You were opposed because you carry light that illuminates hidden darkness. Every attempt to diminish you is, in reality, a sign that your life matters, that your influence is necessary, and that your purpose is unfolding in alignment with heaven. There is a pattern in spiritual warfare that most people do not see. Attacks often appear personal, but they are rarely about individuals alone. They are about destiny. They are about seasons. They are about assignments that, if fulfilled, would disrupt opposition or bring revelation. The one who tried to curse you believed that by interfering with you, they could prevent a shift, delay a blessing, or halt a breakthrough. But what they did not anticipate is that the higher the assignment, the greater the resistance. The more critical the destiny, the stronger the protection. And in your case, this protection has been unwavering. Your anointing is visible to spiritual forces, even when it is invisible to the natural eye. Every step you take in alignment with purpose casts a ripple across the unseen realms. And for those who operate in envy or darkness, this ripple is like a signal, drawing attention to what they cannot understand. They see your progress, sense your favor, and feel your momentum, and they attempt to respond with force, fear, or interference. But what they do not see is the chain of spiritual authority that surrounds you. They do not see the army stationed to enforce justice, the angels assigned to guide, and the law of reversal that transforms every attack into a testimony. The greater plot behind this attack is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to awaken you. You are learning that spiritual reality is far more intricate than human perception suggests. You are discovering that every hidden opposition is recorded, monitored, and addressed in heaven. And you are seeing that what appears to be threat is actually opportunity. What appears to be pressure is preparation. What appears to be delay is alignment. This is the revelation that the enemy cannot control. Every attempt to interfere is contributing to your elevation. Now, pay attention, because the deeper truth is about to surface. This attack was designed to provoke fear, hesitation, and doubt. But it could not succeed because you were anchored in your purpose. The one who attempted harm believed that by destabilizing your confidence, they could gain leverage. They assumed that fear could be planted and grow into stagnation. They hoped that secrecy and deception would allow them to operate without exposure. Yet here is what they did not calculate. Accountability in the spiritual realm is instantaneous, exposure is unavoidable, and divine authority cannot be outmaneuvered. Their plan has crumbled because it was always contingent on deception, and deception cannot exist where truth is enforced. As the confession unfolds, you are witnessing the collapse of every hidden agenda that sought to manipulate your trajectory. The patterns of envy, the whispers of comparison, the silent pressures, they are all being revealed and dismantled. The enemy is powerless to continue, and what they intended to conceal is now a catalyst for your clarity. Every hidden scheme is becoming evidence of your protection. Every secret intention is becoming proof of your favor. And as this unfolds, you will notice shifts in your environment that reflect the exposure of these hidden agendas. People will align correctly, opportunities will manifest, and clarity will replace confusion. Hold on to this moment, because the next revelations will confirm that these attacks were never isolated. They were orchestrated by fear of your rising influence. And the spiritual dismantling you are witnessing is the foundation for your next season. You are stepping into a level of alignment where resistance will continue to emerge, but every attempt will now serve to validate your protection rather than challenge your purpose. Opposition is no longer an obstacle. It is a signpost, confirming the significance of your journey. Now, as you reflect on this, it is time to act in faith. The exposure you are witnessing is not passive. It is an active declaration that your path is protected and your purpose is irreversible. And as you engage, you are not only affirming your own protection, but participating in the amplification of divine authority. Every moment of faith you invest, every declaration of victory, every acknowledgement of truth, strengthens the enforcement of protection around you. Type "I stand in truth" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 528 is now activated. Let this number serve as a spiritual marker, a signal that the greater plot against you hath been exposed, dismantled, and redirected for your ultimate benefit. And as this clarity sets in, I urge you to pause for a moment and consider the deeper purpose behind these attacks. They were never random. They were catalytic. They were meant to illuminate, to reveal, and to confirm. And as you move forward, you will see that what was intended to harm you is now serving as a ladder for elevation. This is also the perfect moment to connect with the mission of spreading truth, light, and revelation to others. If this message resonates with you, you have the opportunity to become part of the movement, supporting the mission through super thanks, membership, or PayPal donations. Every act of support is an act of propagation of light, helping others experience protection, clarity, and divine guidance. You are not merely giving. You are participating in a spiritual amplification that changes lives. The next part will reveal what happens to those who try to harm the chosen, the consequences they face, the divine justice that follows, and why confession is unavoidable. This is the moment where exposure and accountability intersect, showing you the certainty of protection over your life. Now, it is time to understand the consequences for those who attempt to harm the chosen. The one who tried to curse you, the one who sought to manipulate your destiny or inject fear into your life, is not operating outside of divine law. Every thought, word, and intention against you is recorded in the spiritual realm. Nothing goes unseen. Nothing escapes accountability. When someone attempts to inflict harm on the divinely appointed, they set in motion a chain reaction they cannot control, a chain that ensures that justice, exposure, and correction follow immediately. Those who attack the chosen often believe they are invisible. They believe their intentions can remain hidden, their envy can operate silently, and their actions can influence outcomes without consequence. But this is a misconception rooted in ignorance. Heaven is precise in its enforcement. The spiritual covering over the chosen is not passive. It is active, vigilant, and unyielding. Every curse, every negative declaration, every attempt to manipulate circumstances is intercepted, evaluated, and, if necessary, reversed. This is why the confession you are witnessing now is inevitable. The one who sought to harm you cannot maintain secrecy when confronted by authority. Your words, once thought to be concealed, are being drawn into the light. They are being forced to acknowledge what they did. And the act of confession is not optional. It is a direct consequence of the spiritual enforcement surrounding you. Confession serves multiple purposes. First, it neutralizes the attack by exposing it. Words lose their destructive power once revealed. Second, it triggers the law of reversal. What was meant for harm is redirected to bless, to restore, and to confirm your protection. And third, it serves as proof of accountability. Those who attempt to harm the chosen cannot escape the consequences of their actions. They are restrained spiritually, their influence is limited, and their intentions are exposed for the entire spiritual realm to witness. This is not vengeance, it is justice divine and precise. The law governing these consequences is clear. What is sent in secret against the chosen is brought into the open, evaluated against divine law, and then acted upon according to truth. The enemy's power is not permitted to override the assignment of God. Even their hidden plans, when revealed, serve to confirm the protection around the chosen. The person who tried to curse you is now experiencing this firsthand. They believed secrecy and manipulation would allow them to succeed, but now they are confronted with exposure, confession, and a reality that strips their words of power. In the natural realm, this may not always be immediately visible. You may still see people acting as though nothing has changed, as though they are unaffected. But spiritual enforcement does not rely on human perception. The consequences operate in both realms simultaneously, sometimes manifesting subtly through changes in behavior, circumstances, or even emotional disposition. The enemy will experience frustration, loss of confidence, and diminishing influence. Your power over situations that once seemed accessible is now severely restricted. Their words, intentions, and actions are reflected back to them, either in disruption, failure, or exposure. This enforcement also brings clarity to the chosen. You begin to see patterns you did not understand before. You recognize people who were aligned against your progress, situations that were subtly manipulated, and the truth of what was attempted against you. The exposure allows you to operate with wisdom, discernment, and authority. You are no longer vulnerable to hidden attacks because the ones who attempted them have been confronted, restrained, and neutralized. Their ability to influence your life, your decisions, and your progress is removed. It is also important to recognize that mercy still exists in these situations. Those who confess and are confronted have the opportunity for transformation, correction, and alignment. Divine law does not operate without justice, but it also provides a pathway for repentance. Confession is not only about accountability, it is about redirection. It allows the one who attempted harm to face their actions, acknowledge their wrongdoing, and step into the proper alignment with truth. However, the protection of the chosen is non-negotiable. Restoration, favor, and advancement for the chosen will never be compromised, regardless of attempts against them. This is why faith is essential. As you walk through life, aware of spiritual dynamics, you must trust that protection is constant, that enforcement is active, and that exposure and justice will always follow those who attempt to interfere with divine plans. Even when things appear uncertain, even when opposition seems strategic, the law of accountability ensures that no one can harm you without consequence. Your life is under divine authority, and every attack is either neutralized or reversed to serve your progress. Now, as you reflect on this, understand that engagement is essential. If you resonate with this truth, participate actively. Like, share, and subscribe to continue standing in alignment with the message of protection, authority, and exposure. Comment with affirmation. Declare that you are covered, that you are chosen, and that no attack can succeed against you. Your agreement amplifies spiritual enforcement. It is not just a symbolic act. It is a prophetic declaration that aligns you with divine truth. Hold this thought. What the enemy meant for destruction is now evidence of your protection. What they attempted to conceal is now confirmation of your favor. The law of exposure and reversal ensures that their confession and restraint are not temporary but permanent in the spiritual enforcement around you. You are being lifted above opposition, elevated beyond attack, and positioned for breakthrough. And now, as this reality settles, it is time to step into the consequences of their confession, clarity, peace, and acceleration in your life. Opportunities that were stalled will begin to move. Relationships that were misaligned will find proper alignment. Favor will accelerate, and the next season will reveal that what was intended to harm you has become testimony for your protection. Now that the enemy hath been exposed, restrained, and their attempts dismantled, it is time for you to recognize the signs that divine intervention is taking effect in your life. These are not random occurrences. They are evidence that what was meant to harm you has been neutralized and reversed, that your life is under protection, and that your destiny is being restored and accelerated. If you pay close attention in the coming days, you will notice patterns and confirmations that serve as proof of supernatural alignment. The universe will begin to rearrange itself in accordance with divine law, and the subtle signs you see are indicators that heaven is actively confirming your position. First, you may notice clarity returning where confusion once prevailed. Situations that seemed unclear or complicated will suddenly become obvious. Conversations will make sense. Relationships will reveal truth where previously there was misunderstanding. You will find that decisions you struggled to make are now easier, that opportunities you hesitated to act upon suddenly become clear. The lifting of spiritual pressure allows mental clarity, emotional calm, and spiritual alignment to flourish. Confusion, doubt, and fear no longer have the space to manipulate your perception. Second, doors that were previously closed will begin to open. Opportunities that were blocked or delayed will now become accessible. You may notice invitations, proposals, or breakthroughs emerging unexpectedly. People who were previously hesitant or misaligned with your purpose may now step into alignment. Even financial pathways, career advancements, or personal achievements that seem out of reach will begin to manifest. This is the natural evidence of spiritual restoration. What was blocked by unseen interference is now cleared, and what was delayed is arriving in perfect timing. Third, you may encounter unexpected resolutions. Misunderstandings that created tension or confusion in relationships will begin to resolve themselves. Situations that seemed stagnant will start moving. Conversations that felt incomplete or unsatisfying will now provide clarity. Individuals who may have been a source of subtle opposition, intentionally or not, will either align or distance themselves naturally. The removal of hidden obstacles is a critical sign that the spiritual interference has been addressed, and that restoration is actively underway. Fourth, peace will increasingly replace anxiety. You may notice an inner calm that was absent before. Fear, dread, and worry may no longer grip your thoughts. You will feel a sense of assurance even in the face of circumstances that previously would have caused concern. This is not coincidence. It is the manifestation of protection and restoration in the spiritual and natural realm simultaneously. Your life is being reorganized, and this peace is a sign that interference can no longer destabilize you. Fifth, confirmations will appear through synchronicities. Repeated signs, messages, or confirmations from God, the universe, or trusted spiritual sources will make themselves known. You may see patterns that previously went unnoticed. Numbers, words, or events may recur in ways that affirm the accuracy of what has been revealed. People may approach you with insights or confirmations that reflect the truth of your spiritual protection. These are not random. They are orchestrated confirmations that the restoration process is underway. Sixth, the energy of your environment will shift noticeably. Spaces that felt heavy, tense, or uncomfortable may now feel lighter and freer. Atmospheres that were oppressive or filled with subtle opposition may now feel welcoming and encouraging. You may sense a spiritual weight lifting even in situations that once caused concern. This is a direct manifestation of divine authority neutralizing and reversing the spiritual forces that were previously active. The signs are subtle, yet undeniable, and they indicate that protection is now evident in both the natural and spiritual realms. Seventh, You may experience sudden opportunities for advancement or recognition. What was delayed by opposition is now moving forward. Doors that were inaccessible are now opening with ease. People who were previously unavailable, indifferent, or obstructive may now become allies or instruments of favor. These are signs that restoration is not only happening, but that acceleration is now occurring in alignment with your destiny. The forces that once sought to slow you down are now contributing, indirectly, to your rise. 8th, you may feel renewed confidence and empowerment. There is a distinct difference between ordinary motivation and divine affirmation. You will sense authority, assurance, and boldness returning to your spirit. You may notice that doubts no longer linger, and that fear has been replaced with certainty. This is a confirmation that the enemy's influence has been nullified and that spiritual alignment is restoring your natural authority as well. You will act decisively, speak clearly, and move forward with conviction. Finally, the cumulative effect of all these signs will be undeniable. Clarity, open doors, resolved situations, peace, confirmations, shifts in environment, sudden opportunities, and renewed confidence will converge in a way that leaves no doubt about divine intervention. You will begin to recognize a pattern that aligns perfectly with the breaking of the curse, the exposure of hidden opposition, and the operation of spiritual authority. What was meant to harm you has become a testimony of protection, restoration, and elevation. The signs you observe are not random. They are evidence that the battle hath been fought and won on your behalf. These signs are essential to your awareness because they confirm that every attack, every attempt at interference, and every hidden agenda has been aggressed. You are no longer vulnerable to their influence, and the spiritual and natural restoration is now taking form. The next step is to align yourself fully with this victory, to walk confidently in your restored authority, and to recognize that every subtle shift, every confirmation, and every open door is part of a deliberate orchestration for your advancement. As these signs manifest, remember that your faith and engagement play a role in sustaining alignment. Acknowledge each sign as evidence of protection, declare your confidence in divine restoration, and remain steadfast in your purpose. You are entering a season of clarity, favor, and acceleration that will validate everything revealed in this message. Now that the attacks have been exposed, the curse has been broken, and the hidden opposition has been restrained. It is essential for you to understand how to fully align yourself with this victory. The battle may have been won in the spiritual realm, but walking in the natural requires deliberate action, intentional faith, and consistent alignment with the truth that has been revealed. Your victory is not passive. It is activated through your response, your choices, and your obedience to divine guidance. This is the moment where the awareness of protection meets practical implementation in your life. First, reject fear entirely. Fear is a leftover from the enemy's failed attempts, and it only has power if you allow it to persist. Do not give space for doubt, hesitation, or anxiety to infiltrate your thoughts. Recognize that the one who tried to harm you has been restrained, their plans exposed, and their curse dismantled. The spiritual law of divine reversal ensures that what was meant for harm is now either neutralized or redirected for your favor. Every negative word, every secret intention, every attempt at manipulation has been rendered powerless. Allow this truth to dominate your thoughts. Speak it over yourself daily. Affirm your protection, your authority, and your victory. Second, speak life, not suspicion. Part of aligning with this victory is ensuring that your words, your declarations, and your daily communication reinforce truth rather than fear. Do not gossip about the one who tried to harm you. Do not dwell on the injustice. Instead, declare your restoration, your blessings, and your authority. Speak confidently over every area of your life, over your family, over your career, over your health, and over your destiny. The tongue is a powerful instrument that can reinforce spiritual alignment. Every word of faith strengthens your position and ensures that the enemy cannot regain influence through distraction or doubt. Third, maintain consistent faith. Your victory is reinforced by your belief in what has already been accomplished. Trust that the intervention, the exposure, and the reversal are not temporary. They are permanent. Continue to pray, meditate, and walk in obedience, knowing that your steps are guided and your path is protected. Faith is not passive hope. It is active participation in the spiritual reality that has already been established. When you move forward in confidence, every decision and every action aligns with the restoration and acceleration that heaven is orchestrating. Fourth, protect your environment. Spiritual alignment is enhanced when your surroundings reflect your victory. Surround yourself with people, places, and influences that reinforce your authority, peace, and purpose. Limit exposure to negativity, gossip, or environments that attempt to reintroduce the subtle pressures the enemy once used. Spiritual restoration is strengthened when natural boundaries reflect divine protection. This does not mean isolating yourself from the world, but rather consciously curating your influence and associations to maintain alignment with the blessings you have received. Fifth, cultivate gratitude and acknowledgement. Recognize the victories, both large and small, that have been activated in your life. Celebrate every instance of restored favor, clarity, and progress. Gratitude is not only a spiritual principle, it is a channel for sustaining alignment. When you acknowledge the hand of God in your restoration, every blessing is reinforced. It also amplifies spiritual authority in your life, ensuring that no attack or opposition can regain ground. Your recognition of victory is part of the mechanism that secures your alignment with divine protection. Sixth, activate faith through action. Alignment is not only spiritual but also practical. Take steps toward your goals, assignments, and purposes with boldness. Move confidently in areas that may have previously been blocked or delayed. Opportunities, doors, and relationships that have opened as a result of divine intervention require engagement on your part. You are not waiting passively. You are stepping into action under the assurance that spiritual enforcement has cleared your path. Every step taken in alignment with faith reinforces your victory and accelerates the manifestation of blessings. Seventh, guard your heart and mind. Victory is reinforced when your thoughts and emotions reflect your restored authority. Do not allow residual bitterness, resentment, or fear to linger. Instead, cultivate peace, confidence, and trust in divine law. Meditation, prayer, and declarations of faith can anchor your heart and mind in the reality of restoration. This ensures that your life is fully aligned with the spiritual victories that have been enacted on your behalf. Your emotional and mental state becomes a vehicle for sustaining your authority and protection. Eighth, recognize your influence on others. Part of your alignment is understanding that your victory is not just for you. It also impacts those around you. Your restored clarity, favor, and authority create ripples in your environment. People who witness your resilience and alignment are encouraged, inspired, and guided. Your response to attacks and your consistent alignment with truth becomes a testimony that reinforces faith, protection, and divine justice for others. Aligning yourself with your victory includes embracing the role of light in the lives of those around you. Finally, maintain vigilance. Spiritual alignment is ongoing, not momentary. Continue to walk in awareness, prayer, and obedience. Recognize subtle pressures as opportunities to reaffirm your authority and protection. Every action, decision, and word spoken in alignment with truth strengthens your position and ensures that the enemy cannot regain influence. This is your responsibility as one who is chosen, anointed, and protected. Your alignment with victory is both spiritual and practical. It requires awareness, discipline, and consistent faith in the power that has already been executed on your behalf. By following these steps, you ensure that the victory, already won in the spiritual realm, is fully activated in your natural life. The attacks have been neutralized, the curse has been broken, and the enemy has been exposed. Now, your role is to remain steadfast, proactive, and aligned with the authority, protection, and favor that have been established. Every decision you make in alignment with this reality strengthens your position, expands your influence, and confirms that divine restoration and acceleration are irreversible. Now, listen carefully, because this is the culmination of everything that has been revealed to you. The battle hath been fought, the enemy hath been exposed, the curse hath been broken, and every hidden agenda hath been dismantled. You are no longer vulnerable. You are not merely protected, you are untouchable. The one who tried to curse you hath been restrained, their confession has activated reversal, and every word, intention, or attempt to harm you has been neutralized by the authority of heaven. This is not temporary protection, it is a permanent declaration. From this moment forward, your life is fully covered, fully defended, and fully aligned with divine purpose. Understand this clearly. No power on earth, no words from others, no hidden manipulations can overturn what has already been decreed over your life. Your assignment, your calling, your destiny, all of it is now fully guarded. Even if challenges arise in the future, know that they will never be able to breach the spiritual enforcement that has been established for you. Every attempt that was made against you has now become a testimony of protection. The spiritual chains that were meant to bind you are broken, and the authority of Archangel Michael ensures that no further attempt can succeed. You are untouchable. Your life is now a living example of divine intervention. The one who attempted to harm you has been exposed, their plans dismantled, and the law of reversal is fully in operation. What was intended for destruction is now serving as evidence of your favor. What was meant to delay your progress is now accelerating your destiny. Opportunities, clarity, and favor are flowing in ways that were once blocked or delayed. Every obstacle, every interference, and every subtle attempt at disruption had been transformed into proof of protection, confirmation of purpose, and validation of your alignment with heaven. As you reflect on this, know that you are not only protected for yourself, but also positioned to impact others around you. Your resilience, your restored peace, and your victory over hidden opposition become a testimony for others who may face similar attacks. Your life now serves as evidence that divine authority cannot be overridden, that spiritual enforcement is real, and that those under God's protection are untouchable. The ripple effect of your alignment, your courage, and your victory will inspire others to recognize the power of faith, divine authority, and spiritual law in their own lives. Now, it is essential to embrace this reality fully. Walk boldly, speak confidently, and act decisively. Your words carry weight because they are aligned with truth. Your steps are guided because your path is protected. Your decisions are supported because divine authority enforces every move you make. You are no longer in a position of vulnerability. You are in a position of invincibility. Every action you take, every plan you pursue, and every dream you execute is now fully safeguarded by the unseen forces that have been activated on your behalf. It is also crucial to maintain spiritual vigilance. Alignment with this victory is not passive. It requires consistent awareness, prayer, and obedience. Recognize subtle pressures or distractions as opportunities to reaffirm your authority and protection. Continue to walk in clarity, reject fear, and declare your victory. Your life is fully covered, but sustaining this alignment ensures that the protection remains visible in every aspect of your natural life. Every act of faith, every declaration, and every alignment with truth strengthens the spiritual enforcement around you. Now, as we conclude, type "I receive divine protection" in the comments. Blessing code 888 is now activated over your life. Let this number serve as a spiritual seal, marking the moment your victory has been fully recognized, your protection fully enforced, and your alignment fully activated. This blessing is a confirmation that the enemy is restrained, the curse is broken, and your path is untouchable. Additionally, this is a perfect time to participate in spreading truth, light, and divine revelation to others. By supporting the mission through super thanks, membership, or PayPal donations, which are linked in the description or displayed as a QR code, you are not simply giving to a platform. You are helping others experience protection, clarity, and divine guidance. Every contribution amplifies the reach of this message, ensuring that countless lives can witness the power of divine authority, the breaking of curses, and the exposure of hidden opposition. Your giving becomes a prophetic act that releases blessings not only in your life but in the lives of others who receive this revelation. Now, understand this fully. You are untouchable because your life carries assignment. Your purpose is marked, your destiny is sealed, and your path is fully protected. Opposition may appear in the world, but it will never succeed. You are elevated above fear, above delay, and above manipulation. Your faith, your alignment, and your obedience are now fully validated by the spiritual enforcement surrounding you. Every blessing that was once delayed is now arriving. Every obstacle that was once obstructive is now cleared. Every interference that once threatened your progress is now a testament to your favor. Walk in this authority confidently. Speak life. Woo boldly. Recognize every confirmation, every opportunity, and every alignment as proof that heaven is actively engaged in your favor. Do not allow past attempts at interference to linger in your mind or heart. They have been dismantled. They have been exposed. They have been reversed. And from this moment forward, nothing can touch what God has decreed for you. Your destiny, your purpose, and your blessings are untouchable. Every word spoken against you is nullified. Every secret attempt is exposed. Every plan intended to delay you has been reversed. And every blessing, favor, and opportunity that was stalled is now being activated. You are covered, you are protected, you are elevated, and you are untouchable.